The Trauma Code, Heroes on Call, Jung-jeung-eui-sang-sen-teo, Season 1. Recap and ending explained. Who operates on Dr. BaeKang-Hyuk? Netflix is currently surfing the wave of K-drama content, having achieved global success with Squid Game. Interestingly, The Trauma Code, Heroes on Call, original title, Jung-jeung-eui-sang-sen-teo, is a medical drama about a trauma center, released concurrently with the Pitt, 2025, another show created in the U.S. about a trauma center in Pittsburgh. It signals the resurgence of the medical drama genre, which never really died out but was given a much larger canvas and far greater sheen. The difference is that the K-drama, created by Choi-Kae Tang and directed by Lee Do-Yoon, is homaging the web novel and its webtoon adaptation, and thus carries a very heightened nature. But since it doesn't skimp on the stakes of the cases in the trauma surgery, as well as the gory nature of the operations, the show works. The Trauma Code, Heroes on Call, Jung-jeung-eui-sang-sen-teo, Season 1. Episode 1 Enter Dr. Maniac Recap. The opening sequence of the show, following our hero riding a motorcycle through a war zone, carrying blood bags, and delivering them to a slowly decimated hospital, is handled in such a heroic fashion that it automatically explains the tone the show is going to maintain throughout the season. Our primary protagonist is Dr. BaeKang-Hyuk, and he is one of the finest trauma surgeons in Korea if the show would have you believe. Turns out, Dr. Kang-Hyuk would be needed, as most hospitals in Korea aren't exactly interested in investing in trauma centers, but rather in funneling that same investment as provided by the Ministry of Health and Culture towards the other, already fully stocked and well-off departments. However, Minister Kim Hyun-hwa intends to bring about a change in that strategy and believes that Hankook National University and Hospital could be the front line of such change, much to the chagrin of the director of the university, Mr. Choi, as well as the heads of all the other departments. But the minister takes the opportunity to learn that the trauma surgeon Dr. Kwon is on break due to extreme fatigue and calls in the eponymous Dr. Baek. Our second protagonist is Dr. Jung-jae-won, who is the protagonist of Dr. Han Yo-rim, the director of surgery and a colorectologist. However, due to the lack of a dedicated trauma unit or surgeon, doctors would be kept on call, and it was Jung-jae-won's turn, a pacifist and clearly unprepared for handling the surgery that would be brought in, a major stab wound. Jae-won finds himself unable to understand the decision to take, whether to pull the knife out or not. Unbeknownst to him and taking him completely by surprise, Dr. Baek, without any scrubs, had already entered the trauma unit, managed to figure out the nature of the knife wound, took the knife out as the knife had already been broken before the victim was stabbed, and then he managed to slowly yet effortlessly draw the excess blood around the heart. Prepping for surgery, Baek essentially takes over the trauma unit, and finding a position of authority, the nurses in the unit are more than happy to comply. Well, not all of them, and certainly not all the doctors. Anesthesiologist Dr. Kwon is clearly not used to and disinterested in working fast or in specifications to Dr. Baek, and having used ionotropic in anesthesia has led to an increase in blood pressure, which makes Baek mad and leads to him firing Won. His replacement, a young med student named Park Jae-won, is clever on his feet to slow the heart down while Baek conducts surgery, aided by Jae-won. It was also not lost on Baek that he is attracting an adoration-laced look from Jae-won, as Jae-won finds himself utterly impressed by Baek's effortlessness. But what also characterizes Baek is his sheer disinterest and glad-handing, and thus, even as he is late to the inauguration ceremony, he instead chastises Yu-rim and all the doctors, calling for an apology for his lateness. He instead chastises the state of the trauma unit and calls for it to be shut down, instead asking it to be treated as a separate trauma center, much to the horror of Director Choi and the rest of the departments, while the minister looks at the chaos and amusement. We also meet our third protagonist in his comedic moment of misunderstanding as Baek tries to enter the trauma unit and is stopped by Nurse Cheon, who mistakes him for a gangster due to a very prominent tattoo on his arm. The resultant scuffle is ultimately broken by Jae-won, who had already dressed up to go to their next case, albeit unwillingly.